They're often, they can't afford the bail or bond to get out awaiting trial.
Rikers is just holding people who cannot afford to bail themselves out.
Little ghetto boy playing in the ghetto street.
Describe visiting Khalif with your mom. What did you go through to get in to see him?
What I went through, I mean, I'm gonna describe what my mother went through, because when you go through it, you're not seeing it as prevalent as when you're watching your mother, and you're being violated by whether it's a male or woman, because sometimes it's a man, and that person could then fight and say, no, I want a woman to do this. But the women are rough, first of all. My mother attested to that. But then on top of that, sometimes you just want to see your son, and they say, I don't have a woman officer, so you either let me search you or you have to wait. And you know that that woman officer will not come, because there's women officers that walk past, but she's not allowed to do searches. Are you serious? I've waited for sometimes 4 hours to have a 45-minute visit. Sometimes a 20-minute visit, and then the alarms go off, and then the visit's over. They have to then shuffle these inmates or detainees or human beings back into their cages, and then you're shuffled out of there. So you went through a 6-hour wait to then only see your son or brother for 20 minutes.
And let's be clear, Rikers Island, which what's like 7,500 people at any one time, 75,000?
Well, actually, it's 70,000 people are put through the system a year. And yet, I mean, just 2 years ago, or last year, ending 2014, there was 14,000 people that stayed there as detainees prolonged.
So 80% of those people are not charged or convicted of a crime. They are just, they're often, they can't afford the bail or bond to get out awaiting trial.
Rikers is just holding people who cannot afford to bail themselves out. Khalif had a $3,000 bail, right? But it was $10,000. It's just the percentage that they say that's needed is only $3,000. Only $3,000 is kind of hard for a mother who doesn't have financial support. I mean, the husband is an estranged, 16-year estranged husband who now is advantageous because since he's technically the husband, he technically is deserving of 50% or 100% of the Khalif's estate. But when at the time, Khalif only needed $3,000 to be bailed out, and my mother couldn't afford that, and we couldn't get the money up. Besides, we also thought they were going to release him because he didn't do anything. But as time went on, they started offering him 15 years. This scared Khalif. On a visit one time, I'm like, Khalif, just, you know what, take 7 years. I was telling him this.
Take 7 years in prison?
Because they offered 15, and I'm like, no, this is not possible. But then my mother's getting really worried, like 15 years, my son's going to be in 15 years, come out at 30 years old? We can't do this. So then they come to you with a better offer, 7 years, and we're like, Khalif, just take it, because like the attorney he had, the public defender, was telling him this is the best you're going to get. Was telling him that they're being generous, but if you go to trial, they can give you the max of 15 years. So then it scares you that when you hear 7 years, I'm going to take it. But Khalif, he was actually strong. I remember visiting him one separate time where I'm like, Khalif, they don't have nothing on you. This is a game that they play. But who knew it was going to be 3 years?
And most of that time in solitary confinement.
More than half.
Earlier this year, Vanita Browder, Khalif and Akeem's mom, spoke at the America Justice Summit and described the day she found Khalif's body hanging from the side of their home.
I was home alone with him, and we had a little discussion earlier, and I was at a loss as to what to do. I didn't know what to do, how to really, help him, because he became very paranoid.
Worried about getting beaten or attacked.
Yes, and I tried talking to him, so he went upstairs, and I was just laying on my bed, and he came in, he said, Ma, that was his thing. Ma, you all right? I said, yeah, I'm okay. He went back upstairs, and I hear all this moving. So I figured, you know, he was in his brother's room. He's situating the room so he could get comfortable and watch TV. Then I hear him pacing from one room to the other, but when Khalif is upset, he paces. So I didn't pay attention. Then all of a sudden, I hear this loud noise, and I'm like, oh my goodness, a child and threw his brother's TV out the window. But I said, he can't because there's bars. So I said, wait a minute. I go upstairs. I went in his brother's room, nothing. Then I went in the other room, and he had kicked out the air conditioner covers, and I saw this gold rope thing, and I ran downstairs, and when I opened the backyard door, his foot, one of his feet was on the bar of the gate, and I said, Khalif, stop playing. This is not a joke. It's not funny. I said, Khalif. And then I got afraid to open the door all the way in case it was my fault that he snapped. But when I looked up, his head was just hanging back. He was gone. And that loud noise was his body banging up against the house.
That's your mom, Vanita Browder, describing the suicide of your brother.
You know, my mom, she had to, like, deal with the thought that, like, she thought that she did this to Khalif. Sorry. She thought that she was the responsible one for what happened to Khalif because she let him out that day to go to a birthday party. But now, like, I mean, it's hard to hear my mother's voice because, like, she always spoke of Khalif like it was her life, as though like she had no other kids. Like she loved her niece and her grandchildren. It's like a chance to like help or protect them since she lost Khalif. But then she would go back to being like an advocate for Khalif at all points, and it's just sad to hear my mom's voice because like me and my mom had a really strong connection, and we still do. Like I'm not embarrassed to say this, but my mom visits me at night now. Like I dream of her often. She talks to me like I can't sleep at night because I'm hearing my mom, but to hear her on like her actual voice speaking, it's like, man, I'm my family's relocating to the cemetery. My brothers are depressed now. Like they don't want to live without mommy. When it happened to Khalif, it's like, you know what, I was angry, I was sad, I was hurt. They took this is my buddy, like he was my workout buddy. He was, we had this relation since he's been in jail, I was in jail. We both related because he loved Tupac, so like he was my buddy. We were real close actually. And at night sometimes when he couldn't sleep, he called me. I'd drive over to my mother's house, pick him up, drive down Pelham Parkway, and I'd notice he within like 4 minutes, 5 minutes tops, he's sleeping in my passenger seat. But it would hurt me because while he's sleeping, I'm seeing him twitch as though he's fighting while he's sleeping. This jail never left him. The torture they did to him never left him. So while he's in a car seat, relaxed because he couldn't sleep at home, he's now in the car seat sleeping and fighting in his dreams. I mean, while he was home, people said, and I hate the term that people say, he was paranoid, but Khalif wasn't paranoid. It's not paranoia that happened. When he came home, unmarked police cars would sit on the corner of my mother's block, and when he comes outside, they would chase him back in by driving past the house and going like that with their hands, not with the actual gun.
Making the form of a gun.
Of a gun, and they would go like this when he comes out the house.
Like he's shooting it. They're shooting it.
Yeah, and he would run inside, tell my mom. My mom would go outside, not see it, but then after a while, we started catching him on camera. So my mom would call me, because I'm 7 minutes away from my mother's house. I would drive over there, and I'd see the car, and I'd walk past it, but it's tinted. It's an unmarked car. And I'd go inside, and when he comes out, same thing, all the time. And then on top of that, before he passed, the night before, he got a text that said, "We warned you." The morning of, he took his life around in the afternoon and around 12 o'clock. The morning of, his cell phone, he had a second text, unknown number, "We warned you." Khalif wasn't paranoid. He was being chased. He was being coerced into taking his life. Because when you have a person on, he was on a medication, starts with an R, I just can't remember the name, but not Ritalin, but he was on a depression medication that has a statistic of, if you give it to a person between the age of 11 and 21, it's a 17% risk of suicide. They were in every way teaching him and prodding him to commit suicide.
Do you have any idea who those people were in the tinted car? Tinted windows?
They were definitely officers. Khalif got, and what people don't know is Khalif got shot in December 21st of 2015. No, of 2014. Sorry. Khalif was shot in the abdomen, sent to St. Barnabas, where my mother passed. And
recently.
Just recently. And he was in intensive care. But there, he was irate because they gave him medication. He was considered a John Doe, but they're giving a John Doe medication not knowing that he's on this medication that they gave him, which made him really irate. So I got up there. They tried to keep me in the waiting room. I ran up. I'm seeing my brother. I went in there. I hear him say, Akeem, Akeem, calling for me. And it made me more like, oh my God, what's going on? What are they doing to my brother? Behind curtains, he's calling, Akeem, Akeem, what are they doing? They're trying to kill me. I go in behind the curtain. Khalif sees me, but he's still calling Akeem. I'm like, I went to the nurse. What are you doing to him? He was handcuffed to the bed while he's shot in intensive care, internal bleeding.
He wasn't in prison at the time, was he?
No, this is home.
So why would they handcuff him?
Because they said he was being irate. He's being irate because you gave him medication against what he was already taking. Probably I'm not the medical person, but for them to do what they did, and no responsibility is given at all. So there's a docuseries coming out from the producers that came to my family called Time, the story of Khalif Browder. It comes out January 11th of 2017.
This is Jay-Z is involved with this on Spike TV?
Yes. And, Jenna First is the producer.
Who did Orange is the New Black?
Yes, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And everything that, so we seen in the movie The 13th, or the documentary. It's stuff that it's stuff that we've already seen of Khalif, 5 minutes worth. But this is telling the real story. So you'll hear the real story of like he was shot, or how they were taunting him. He was arrested.
Who shot him?
Khalif, you know what? Khalif told us it was a white person. In my mother's neighborhood, there's no white people. It's black and Hispanic predominantly. But when you hear of a white person, he doesn't know.
Where was he? Was this at night?
Right in no, in the afternoon. Right on.
This is when he was a student at Bronx Community College?
Yes. And he was shot in the abdomen, next to the building. He made it home, holding himself. Went upstairs, said he wanted to. He has to sleep it off. He thought he was just going to sleep it off. Called the ambulance. They came. Police came. They dropped the case within 24 hours, saying they have no leads, and that he shot himself. They said he shot himself. Yet he's saying a white person shot him. Now, of course, he doesn't know who it is because someone shot him. But they said that he shot himself.
I just wanted to read a quote of Jay-Z, who said, Khalif Browder is a modern-day prophet. His story, a failure of the judicial process. A number of celebrities reached out to him, is that right? He was on Oprah?
He was, on a lot of shows, as you saw. Like, he was on The View, he was on other shows.
And how did that affect him?
He was ecstatic to meet Jay-Z, like, it's his idol. And yet, I wish they would have, at the time when he was alive, taken it seriously, that he doesn't need exposure, he doesn't need a basketball game to go to. It's nice. I really appreciate them doing this. I just wish they would have, said, you know what, after this game, we're gonna, hook you up and send you to counseling or therapy, or help you with the fact that you can't sleep at night, something.
don't you let